Okay. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of outsourced bookkeeping. If you are watching this on Facebook Live, feel free to ask any questions. If you are in my Zoom meeting, put any questions in the chat and I will answer them for you. And again, there are no stupid questions. So if you have any question, this is the time to ask because I'm giving you free answers on anything that you want. And if you have a really good idea for another webinar, feel free to put that into the chat as well so that I don't always have to think of new subjects to talk about bookkeeping, because I feel like I've been doing this almost a year now, so I might be running out of subjects. I might not be, but I might be. All right. Anybody have questions so far? No. Okay, good. So tonight, we are going to talk about the pros and cons of outsourcing bookkeeping. And of course, as every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on the Bottom Line Live, this is everyone's favorite subject, is bookkeeping. Now, when all y'all, I'm not American, so I'm not technically allowed to say that, but when all y'all started your companies, you started your company to do what you wanted to do. If you're an actor, you wanted to act. If you're a lawyer, you wanted to practice law. If you're a doctor or a chiropractor or a real estate investor, you started your company to do that. And all of a sudden, you had a bunch of paperwork and your CPA asking you for numbers, and you didn't know what the numbers were or where to get them. And you didn't really know anything because that's not your area that you're a expert in. You're an expert in lawyering or doctoring or chiropractic or acting or real estate investing, whatever it is that you do. And that's where you go, oh, I guess I need a bookkeeper. Now, do you need a bookkeeper in-house, or do you need an outsourced bookkeeper? Or do you just need to do it yourself? You know, how do you know what you should do? What are the pros and cons? So that's what I want to talk about. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or even if you have subjects for my next Bottom Line Live, because I 100% need more subjects to talk about. I can talk a lot, but someone has to give me a subject sometimes. Okay, so for my next Bottom Line, we're echoing now. I 100%. Fun. We stopped echoing. Okay, so here are the things to look at. Where are you in your company, right? Did you just start your company and you made $5,000 in your new jewelry business? Have you been in business for years and years and years and you've been trying to figure this all out for yourself and you're tearing your hair out? Have you been in business for a couple of years, but you're making a ton of money? Have you been in business for a couple of years, but it's just your side hustle? There's a lot of different factors that you can look at to make the determination of whether it's time to get a bookkeeper, whether it's outsourced. But I have gone over all of that in other webinars. So in this webinar, I'm just really going to go over the pros and cons of outsourced bookkeeping, because I do outsourced bookkeeping. I have about 130 companies that we currently do bookkeeping for. My team is up to 10 people, and 5 of them are bookkeepers, and I'm hiring 2 more bookkeepers. So also, if you know of anyone that is looking for a job as a bookkeeper, remote, let me know. So what are the pros and cons? Okay, so pros are, let's start with some pros. We just got a new client that's a very large client. They have a lot of different companies, and with all their companies together, it's several million in revenue. And they were looking for someone in-house for over a year, and they weren't able to find someone that met with their expectations. And so they reached out to us. And one of the things that we talked to them about was, what are the pros and cons? So they wanted someone on payroll that, you know, they could just call whenever they wanted to. And we're obviously not that, because we are fully remote outsourced bookkeeping company. So I was telling them about the pros and cons of this. So having an employee that's your bookkeeper, first of all, do you have enough bookkeeping to do to have someone be a full-time bookkeeper? Or are you hiring them part-time? Or are you hiring an office manager to do a little bit of bookkeeping and some other administrative duties? So that's the first thing to look at is, do you have enough work for one person to do it either part-time or full-time? A lot of small businesses don't. Maybe when you get into the few million range, maybe you do. But even at that point, depending on what type of industry you're in, you might not have full-time work for that person. So now you have the choice of either hiring a very skilled person in bookkeeping and accounting and finance and not having much work for them, or hiring someone who is kind of all around skilled as an office manager and hoping they do okay on the bookkeeping aspect. So that's what small business owners run into. Now, if you hire someone as an employee, you're paying their payroll, you're paying their payroll taxes, you're paying for staff meetings, you're paying for water cooler talk, you're just paying them while they're there. And I hire a lot of employees, so I know as a business owner that this can get frustrating because they're not actually working 40 hours in a week. They're not doing things for you 40 hours a week. And in my company, I'm expecting my bookkeepers to be able to do at least 35 hours of actual bookkeeping. And that's not always that easy between meetings and everything else and, you know, training sessions and things like that. But that's what I would like them to be able to accomplish in 40 hours. It's 35 billable hours of that. So, and we have pretty minimal meetings. You know, we have one staff meeting and then we have just like coordination meetings throughout the week. So it's possible for them to do that, but a lot of companies have a lot of meetings. And a lot of times owners, business owners want to talk to the bookkeeper and get information and really work really closely. So that means that the bookkeeper isn't doing bookkeeping, they're in meetings. Not only that, but you're having to pay for benefits. Let's say your company offers benefits, you know, health insurance, 401k match, bonuses, whatever that is, that you're having to pay that on top. So when you calculate all that time and money together, it isn't necessarily that much less, at least for this company that I talked to, what they were finding in the range for the salary for a person who had the skills and qualifications that they wanted ended up costing almost the same as hiring an outside company to do it once you calculate in the, you know, benefits, bonuses, meetings, all of that stuff that you're not going to get charged from us or from an outside bookkeeping firm, unless, yes, you specifically ask for a meeting. So those are some of the benefits, but what are some of the cons? So if you hire an outside bookkeeping firm and they're not in your office every day, they might not know everything that's going on. So a lot of times collecting income becomes very difficult and gets kept in-house because an outside bookkeeper doesn't have enough information to do it and may not be available on call like your inside in-house bookkeeper would be. If you have someone who works for you 40 hours a week, and in those 40 hours, you close a sale and you need an invoice sent out right away, you can call your finance manager, bookkeeper, whatever they are in your company, and have them send that invoice out right away. You can have them call that client and get the credit card number or whatever it is and get it paid. And if you have an outside bookkeeping firm, you probably can't do that. You can try, but we will say, okay, well, we need it on a schedule. We need at least one business day to reply to you. So you give us the information, and by the end of the next day, you know, we'll do that for you. We'll send out your invoices or whatever you need. So there is pros and cons there. You know, you can potentially have much faster service with someone in-house. Again, do you have enough work for them to do? What is it really costing you? All these things. Where are you in your business? Another thing that I've run into, let me see if I have any questions yet. Does anybody have any questions? No, we're rolling. Okay. Another thing I've run into is finding good bookkeepers. You as a business owner, how do you know how to find a good bookkeeper? It's hard. I hire bookkeepers. I put them through tests. I do quality bookkeeping reviews. I train them up. I mean, I'm not finding people and training them to be a bookkeeper, but if they have areas where they're missing, I'll train them up on it, or Celeste will, who's my bookkeeping director, and we'll get them strong in the areas that they might have weaknesses. But at the end, your books will be correct because we're reviewing it. when you hire someone in-house, if you aren't sure how to double check that work yourself, you don't really know if it's correct or not. And potentially the CPA, if you have a really great CPA who's willing to do that for you, can review it and let you know if it's good or not. But even then, how hard is it to get a hold of your CPA? So, and this unfortunately also goes for, even if you hire an outsourced bookkeeper and you're hiring them they're just their own company, how do you know they're good? And I've talked about this before. Are you getting reports when you're supposed to? Like, if they're doing monthly bookkeeping, are you getting a report every month? If they're doing weekly bookkeeping, are you getting, your spreadsheets that you need every week? Do they reply within one business day? Because we all know how much everyone hates when your bookkeeper or CPA takes 2 to 3 weeks to reply. So these are some of the things to look at. How do you find a good bookkeeper? So I am, in my bookkeeping firm, I'm doing that work for you. I am calling through hundreds of application forms, giving them all tests, and doing a quality review on top of that to make sure that what you get is right and accurate. Because again, my mission statement is complete and accurate financial statements for the business owner's peace of mind. Financial records for the business owner's peace of mind. So we're selling peace of mind, we're giving peace of mind, but we also want complete and perfect financial records. So how do you know that you're getting that? If you hire a company that does reviews and, really tests all the candidates, then you should be able to get that. But how do you as a business owner know? It's tough. That's not your area where you're skilled in. And that's just an area that's tough to know whether you are hiring someone in-house or remote or outsourced. You have to just be able to have someone else, another set of eyes, look at it, whether it is a CPA or someone else who's trained that can look at it and make sure it makes sense. Now, here's another con of outsourced bookkeeping. So again, because we're not there and we don't know exactly what you're doing, we might have a lot more questions than someone who's in your office. Someone who's in your office knows that you bought that computer last week and knows what it was for because you guys talked about it at the meeting or it was mentioned at staff meeting. We don't know, so we might have to ask, what was this purchase from the Apple store? And you have to say, oh, it was a computer because one of my computers broke. So there's going to be a lot more questions. And we're using a really good app called Uncat, where all of the questions that we have, the uncategorized transactions, uncategorized income, go in there. And it's a really easy, intuitive app. The business owner can go in, write down what it's for, and then we get the data and can put it right back in QuickBooks. They work with QuickBooks. It's great. So we do that. We try to limit the back and forth, but I just got off a meeting today. We're trying to finalize someone's 2021 book so they can send it to their CPA. And there was a bunch of emails back and forth on this one sales tax transaction. And finally, we got in a meeting and we discussed it. And it was like, okay, here's what we can do. We can go get a login to your sales tax portal and see if we can find the payment, because nobody could figure out, because they had different sales tax assessments. It wasn't just like normal sales tax. So it can easily get complicated and back and forth. And, you could have to have meetings. And we do meetings with clients when they request it, right? So it's not that we don't, but just keep that in mind, that there's going to have to be more information back and forth and more communication, because the person isn't there just observing what's happening. So that is a con, I would say, for most business owners. But if you own a business, I can tell you kind of ranges, right? Like I have business owners that are in a 400 to 500,000 revenue per year range. I have a lot of those, and they take 4 or 5 hours a month often of bookkeeping. And maybe some of them do part of it in-house. Maybe they'll do the, receiving, sending invoices in-house. So if somehow we were doing that as well, it would take longer. But this is including running their payroll usually. Okay, so let's say we're running their payroll and we're doing the bookkeeping for a $400,000 or $500,000 revenue company, 4 to 6 hours a month. Now, let's say you add in paying their bills. Let's say we do that twice a month. That adds maybe 2 more hours. So you're talking about 8 hours a month of bookkeeping. Let's say they also want us to do some other services. They also want us to send invoices once a week. Okay, now you're talking about 10 hours a month of bookkeeping. So at that point, you can either have, depending on what services you need, 4 to 10 hours a month of hiring an expert bookkeeping company to come and just get that stuff done and get it to you, or hire someone, an office manager in-house that may or may not know bookkeeping and will kind of try to muddle their way through it. And we fix lots of bookkeeping that has been done by people who aren't really well trained in bookkeeping, and they did their best, but there's a lot of things to fix. And sometimes fixing things takes longer than doing it right in the first place, or however long it took them in the first place. But you know how it is. Like if you're a painting contractor and you go and paint a house, it might take you 12 hours or 3 days or whatever it takes. Whereas if you hired me to go paint your house, it might take me a couple of weeks, and I might have to fix the baseboards because I didn't put my masking tape down correctly, because I painted a few rooms in my life, and it was probably just for fun. So that's kind of the difference, is if you're hiring a professional, we can get it done in the 4 to 10 hours. If you're asking your office manager or someone who isn't well versed in it, well trained, it might take them, let's say on the short end, maybe it would take them 10 hours a week. So maybe there's a difference in price in what you're paying an outside bookkeeping firm hourly and what you're paying an employee hourly, but it might take them 2, 4, 8 times as much time, and it might not get done right. So again, pros and cons. Now that is not to say that you couldn't find someone who is, a really good bookkeeper, but they also want to do office management stuff and they're really good at everything, and they're just overall, jack of all trades or whatever you want to call it, and they're just great, and they're only charging you an employee rate, and they're amazing and perfect. Like, those people exist. So it's not that you can't find them, but I know that we all know that they're not that easy to find. So that's where you have to decide. Do you want to spend the more money for this person that's going to end up taking more time and may have to get fixed later by someone who charges more money? Or do you just, kind of bite the bullet and pay the higher rates for the expert to do it? Now, again, just because we're doing it and we're experts doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to end up with perfect books with no communication, because we can't read your mind. So we're going to send you questions, and we're going to send you reports, and we're going to say, hey, can you take a look at this owner's draw and make sure everything in there is actually personal, and we didn't put anything in there that is meant to be business. You do need to have participation. We're not going to be able to do it without you, because we can't read your mind. We don't know everything about your company, and we're working with lots of clients. So we are going to need participation. We are going to need you to tell us what things are, to review it, to make sure that we put things in the correct category, that we understood correctly what you were saying. But for the most part, I would say it's still going to save you a lot of time and money. Now, here's another scenario. Business owner feels like his company isn't big enough to hire outside help. That might be true, or he doesn't even feel like he's ready to hire an employee. That might be true. There's a lot of small companies, that are only 100,000, 150,000 revenue for the year. They don't feel like they have enough revenue to hire someone. That might be true. Then what do you do? So we have some clients that size that we do bookkeeping for them quarterly, and we catch it up every quarter. They still pay us our rates, but it takes 3 to 5 hours a quarter. So they're paying, maybe a couple of grand a year for bookkeeping, and they have everything they need for their taxes at the end of the year. I don't think that they could do financial planning on it because it's only being done every 3 months, but they can have it done by the end of the year. So they're not doing our favorite thing of sitting in a corner, hiding in a closet with a box of receipts and your bank statements, and taking 3 days with some strong coffee and trying to work it out at the end of the year. So, you've got 3 days of that, or pay a couple of grand for somebody to do it and keep it up for you. So even then, what do you want to invest? Do you want to invest time? Do you want to invest money? Do you like the headaches? Do you, or do you want someone else to do it? Okay, so you as a business owner, if you're really interested in bookkeeping and you like doing it, or you just want to do it yourself because you are familiar with your company, you absolutely can do that. Especially when your business is starting out, you want to have your fingers in all the pots, like you want to know what's happening. I even do consultations where I train business owners on how to use QuickBooks for their company, just what they need. You don't need to know everything about QuickBooks in order to use it for your company, right? So I train people on that. And we have people that do that. And when they're big enough, they'll reach out to us, or if they get stuck on a transaction, they'll do a consultation and we'll debug them. So we have people that do that as well. And they want to learn bookkeeping and they want to do it for their company, at least for now. And that's totally fine. You absolutely are allowed to. You don't have to hire someone else to do it. But there might be transactions that you run into that you don't know how to deal with that you might need help on. And that's where it's good to have someone that you can reach out to or ask. Now, when you get to the end of that, though, and you're starting to make more money, you have to realize a business owner's time is worth minimally tens of thousands of dollars an hour in potential income. So that time that you're sitting there pulling your hair out trying to figure out your bookkeeping, you could be doing business development, you could be doing sales, you could be figuring out your product to get it to market. There's all these different things. So you have to always look at the investment. You're investing time and you're investing money, and what is a better investment for you? It's always beans in, beans out. So I'm investing this to get this much out. Is this a good investment or is it not? And that's how I was taught. That's how I manage my company. Okay, so I hope I was able to have you help. I hope you guys were able to get some good data out of that, of what are the pros and cons. Let me remind everyone before I jump off, because my half hour is about to be over. It is tax season. If you need bookkeeping done for 2021, run to whoever your bookkeeper is, because if that's not done yet, all bookkeepers are crazy busy right now. We're all about to be fully overwhelmed. So run to whoever your bookkeeper is and get it done right away. And if you haven't done your tax planning yet for 2022, 2023, now is the time for that as well. They are going to ask for your P&L, so you do need to have your bookkeeping done so that they can help you. But don't come to your bookkeeper or your CPA at the end of the year and say, how do I save money? If you came to me right now and said, how do I save money for 2021 taxes? There's pretty much nothing I can do. But if you plan now, how do I save money for 2022 taxes? What do I change so I'm saving money for 2023 taxes? Now is the time to do that. So keep that in mind. Tax deadline's coming up. Tax planning season is also now. If you are an S Corp, your taxes are due September 15. If you are sole proprietor, LLC, your taxes are due, that isn't elected to be taxed as a corporation, your taxes are due October 15. So hustle, hustle, hustle. It's time to get it done. All right, thank you all so much. If you have any questions, you can reach me. You can go to my website, solvencynow.com. You can email me, maya@solvencynow.com. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram under Solvency Now or Maya Weinreb. And we started a TikTok, so you should check out my TikTok with bookkeeping tips. And I will see you all next week on the Bottom Line Live. And thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.